Okay, let's unpack this. You might recall back in 2018, there was that SBS investigative show, Unanswered Questions.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
It aired an episode that, well, it really stirred things up. Caused quite a controversy.
It definitely did.
At its heart were these pretty serious allegations about a possible link between Lee Jae-myung, he was the mayor of Seongnam back then, and the Seongnam International Mafia.
Right, this alleged organized crime group.
Exactly. It sparked a massive public discussion, and today we're going to dive deep into the sources we've gathered. We want to understand the main claims, the responses, and the questions that are still hanging out there.
Precisely. And to give you a really full picture, we've pulled together news articles from places like Jung Ilbo, Munhwa Ilbo, Penmike, Volgan Chosun.
A good mix.
Yeah, and we've also got transcripts from YouTube videos, YTN, and one called Tai Via Hok Lao, which is like Wonji's Wheatfield. So the aim here is to sift through all this, lay out the evidence and the claims from these different viewpoints, focusing really on the nature of this alleged relationship between Lee Jae-myung and this Seongnam International Mafia.
Which the report suggests was involved in quite a range of criminal activities in Seongnam, right?
Yeah, reportedly everything from like local protection rackets and illegal gambling up to more serious violence stuff.
Okay, so let's begin with that Gasanya report, the 2018 one that sort of kicked this all off. What were the main things they claimed in that broadcast?
Well, the episode was basically exploring potential connections between this Seongnam International Mafia and political figures in that area. It specifically pointed to Lee Jae-myung, who was the mayor then, and also Yoon Soo-mi, who was running for Seongnam mayor at the time.
Right.
The show alleged that people linked to the mafia were seen at political events, and it also suggested a connection to a company called Komoot Trade.
And Lee Jae-myung, what was his immediate reaction? I mean, this was on national TV.
Yeah, during the broadcast itself, Lee Jae-myung did acknowledge something. He said a nephew of his had been part of the International Mafia back when he was in middle school.
Okay.
And he also said he'd acted as his lawyer 4 times, but he really stressed it was because they were family.
Understood. Now, this Komoot Trade name, it keeps coming up right from the start. Why was their involvement seen as, well, significant?
Komoot Trade matters because, as the broadcast highlighted, this company got an award promising small and medium-sized enterprise from Seongnam City.
While Lee was mayor.
While Lee Jae-myung was mayor, yes.
No.
And on top of that, the head of Komoot Trade, this guy Lee Jun-suk, was allegedly tied to the mafia and was actually later convicted for illegal online gambling. So this award, given by the city under Lee to a company whose boss was allegedly linked to the same mafia being talked about, well, it definitely raises a critical question for you about potential oversight or maybe even connections.
Absolutely. A company with alleged mafia links getting official city recognition.
Yeah, that definitely warrants a closer look. But the connection doesn't stop there, does it? Our sources also dig into Lee Jae-myung's legal career, specifically representing people linked to this group.
That's right. After that first broadcast, a YTN report came out with more detail. It said Lee Jae-myung had represented not just the one nephew, but actually 2 individuals identified as members of the International Mafia as a lawyer.
Okay, 2 individuals.
And then, adding another layer, a central ILBO report zeroed in on one specific relative. It said Lee Jae-myung represented his cousin's son, born in '76, for theft and traffic violations.
When was this?
In 1999 and again in 2005. And that's notable because, it shows legal representation happening after the nephew's middle school years.
Right, which was a time frame Lee seemed to imply in his initial statement on the TV show.
Exactly. It almost sounds like 2 different versions of the story regarding how long and how involved these representations were. It certainly does. Representing a relative multiple times, even into adulthood, for potentially criminal stuff. It definitely broadens the scope of that connection. What else did that Yeonjung video add about his legal work and these alleged ties?
The Yeonjung video. It gets into even more specific and frankly more serious cases. It reveals Lee Jae-myung represented a different nephew in a really awful case, a brutal double murder in 2006.
Wow, a double murder.
Yes, and this nephew was apparently described as an ace member, like someone important within the international mafia structure.
And what was Lee's defense strategy?
According to the video, Lee Jae-myung argued for diminished capacity in that case.
Okay, representing someone in a double murder, especially described as a key mafia member, that's significant. Were there other examples? Did he represent people outside his family who were allegedly part of this group?
Yes, the video mentions that too. It says Lee Jae-myung also represented another nephew again, separate from the murderer and the one with the earlier thefts multiple times for theft in 99 and 05. But maybe more significantly, it uncovers that Lee Jae-myung was legal counsel for 2 alleged leaders within the international mafia.
Leaders?
Yeah, one born in 76 called AC in the Source and another born in 85 called BC. This was in a big 2007 mass arrest case involving 61 alleged mafia members.
61 people.
Yeah. AC was described as a key leader involved in violent assaults. BC was into assault and apparently forced people to get tattoos without paying.
Good grief.
And interestingly, Lee Jae-myung apparently managed to get a pretty light fine for BC in a later perjury case connected to all this.
This really raises that question for you, doesn't it? Is it just a lawyer doing their job, defending anyone who asks? Or does representing people described as leaders, repeatedly, within the same alleged criminal group, suggest something more? Like a deeper familiarity?
It definitely moves beyond just, 1 or 2 isolated instances involving family.
We're talking about representing individuals described as leaders, active members, involved in serious violent crimes, not just some distant relative from way back.
Yeah, precisely. And backing this up, a Munhwa Ilbo report points out that court records from that exact 2007 case, the one where Lee was a lawyer, explicitly identify the defendants as members of the mafia group.
So official court documents stated their affiliations.
Seems so, which makes it harder to argue he didn't know who he was representing at the time.
And that Penmike column by Lee Hyun. It seems like it pulls a lot of these different threads together, really focusing on what this all implies about the alleged relationship.
It does, yeah. Lee Hae-yeon's column hits on Lee Jae-myung defending his nephew in the 2006 murder, repeats the story about representing the cousin's son multiple times for, quote, mafia-related activities, and really emphasizes that Lee also defended other alleged international mafia members in that big 2007 arrest.
Right.
The column names one of the individuals Lee defended, Kim Chan-jong, saying he was involved in extorting street vendors along with over 60 other members, and Lee apparently defended him again later on perjury charges.
So multiple representations of the same alleged member.
Yes. And here's where it gets really interconnected. Lee Jun-suk, remember him? The CEO of Comet Trade.
Yeah, the company that got the award.
And Kim Hyung-jin, who was later a suspect in that notorious Pattaya murder case. They were also among the 47 international mafia members indicted in that same 2007 case, the very case where Lee Jae-myung was acting as a defense lawyer for other defendants in the group.
Wow, so the head of Comet Trade, the company that got an award from Lee City, was part of this same group of alleged mafia members, some of whom Lee Jae-myung had legally represented. That feels like a very, very significant link, more than just, passing acquaintance.
It certainly appears that way.
Okay, let's dive deeper into this Comet Trade connection specifically. What else did the sources tell us?
Well, according to that YTN report, Comet Trade was set up in 2013 by someone alleged to be an international mafia member.
Okay.
And as we said, it got that promising SME award from Seongnam City under Mayor Lee. But beyond the award, the company also donated quite a lot of air purifiers to a city-run nursing home.
So they were involved in community donations too.
Yes. The fact that a company with these alleged mafia links not only got an award, but also made significant donations to city facilities, all under Mayor Lee, well, it presents a potential conflict of interest that seems to go beyond just simple oversight, doesn't it?
It does. How did Lee Jae-myung explain giving this award to Comet Trade when he was asked about it?
The Penn Mike report has a quote from Lee Jae-myung. He apparently said Comet Trade was picked as an exemplary company because of its charity work donations to welfare places and Seongnam FC, the local football club.
Okay.
And he reportedly claimed he didn't know the CEO had a FISTA background, basically implying he was unaware of the alleged mafia connection. But as the report immediately points out, Lee Jae-myung was a lawyer in the 2007 trial of international mafia members, a trial that included the Comet Trade CEO among the defendants.
Right. Given that legal involvement with members of the same group, how plausible is that claim of ignorance, do you think?
It certainly seems to stretch credulity. It's difficult to imagine there was zero awareness of these connections, given those professional interactions.
That central Ilbo article, Seongnam International Mafia, who are you? Does that add anything here?
Yes, that article also identifies the commodity trade CEO Lee Mo, 38, back in 2017, as an alleged international mafia member. It confirms his company got public thanks from Mayor Lee for the donations.
Okay.
And it adds another detail. This CEO was later arrested for tax evasion connected to illegal sports betting, just another layer to the alleged criminal side of the company that got city recognition.
And the Hinja-Hyum-hae video, you said it really highlights the significance of this Comet connection.
Exactly. It just hammers home that undeniable link. Lee Jae-myung, the Comet CEO who got the award from Lee Jae-myung, was indicted back in that 2007 international mafia case, the same case where Lee Jae-myung himself was defending several other members.
That direct overlap.
Yeah.
And it really makes the claim of not knowing about potential mafia ties very hard to reconcile.
It's quite striking when you lay it all out like that, isn't it?
It truly is. It suggests a pattern of interaction that, well, it warrants careful thought. Now, beyond these legal and business links, did the sources mention anything about more direct financial or, say, political support?
There were some allegations there, yes. The Penn Mike report mentions claims that the Comet CEO, Lee Jae-myung, helped Yoon Soo-mi's mayoral campaign financially, specifically by providing a car and a driver.
Okay, support for another politician in Seongnam.
Right. And then separately, that central Ilbo article, the one called He's a Gangster But, the identity of the person exposing Lee Jae-myung's gangster involvement allegations. That one details testimony from a guy named Park Cheol-min.
And who was he?
He claimed he used to be an action leader in the international mafia, and his allegation was huge. He claimed he personally delivered about 2 billion Korean won.
2 billion won. That's a lot of money.
A very large sum. He claimed he delivered it to people connected with Lee Jae-myung.
Was there any proof? Any corroboration for such a massive claim?
Well, according to that same Central Ilbo report, the police actually classified Park Cheol-min as more of a person of interest who had already left the organization, not an active member when he testified.
Okay.
And also, photos he showed as proof were apparently found to just be old social media posts, so that cast quite a bit of doubt on how immediate or reliable his claims were.
So a very dramatic allegation, but maybe not strongly supported by the evidence presented.
Seems that way based on this source, yes. The direct financial link seems less solid there.
Well, while those direct money claims seem shaky, the Tae-young-hee video did bring up another interesting point about someone close to Lee Jae-myung.
Yes, it did. It highlighted that Lee Jae-myung's personal secretary, Mr. Kim, who had apparently worked with Lee since his mayor days.
Okay, someone in his inner circle.
Right. This Mr. Kim was convicted back in 2009 for being involved in a violent incident linked to the international mafia trying to take over a building contract in Bundang.
So, someone directly employed by Lee Jae-myung was convicted for involvement in an incident connected to this same alleged mafia group.
That's what the video reports. It adds another potential layer to the picture individuals closely associated with him also having alleged, or in this case, confirmed links to the Seongnam International Mafia's activities.
It's quite a web. How did Lee Jae-myung and his team respond to all these different allegations over time?
Well, the YTN report summarized his defense. Part of it was stressing his duty as a lawyer, that lawyers have to represent people who need help, even if they're accused of crimes.
The cab rank rule sort of argument.
Kind of. And regarding Comet Trade, he framed their support as just normal gratitude for their community work, insisting he didn't know about their alleged background beforehand.
And the political motivation claim.
Yes, he also strongly suggested the whole thing was politically motivated, an attack aimed at hurting his reputation, especially as he became a more prominent national figure.
Wait.
His legal team also really leaned on the fact that he was never actually indicted, never formally charged in connection with any of this. They argued that basically amounts to being legally cleared.
Even though, as we've discussed, the reasons why he wasn't indicted are apparently debated.
Exactly.
And what about that lawsuit he filed against the SBS show, Disfoley?
Yes. The Penn Mike report says he did file a lawsuit against them, but then later withdrew it.
Why is it withdrawn?
According to Lee's legal representative, quoted in the report, they withdrew it because, in their view, the falsity of the gangster accusations had been legally proven by the prosecution deciding not to indict and an appeal on that being rejected.
Okay, so they claimed the non-indictment proved the allegations were false, but was that the full story?
Well, interestingly, the Penn Mike report offers a critical counterpoint right there. It states that the prosecution's reason for not indicting was actually based on concluding that the information in the broadcast was factual, not false.
Wait, the opposite. The prosecution thought the broadcast was factual.
That's what the Penn Mike report claims was the basis for non-indictment, which directly contradicts the idea that the withdrawal happened because the claims were legally disproven as false.
So it seems the legal outcome didn't necessarily mean the substance of the allegations was dismissed. Okay, this has been incredibly detailed, really digging into this complex web. Let's try and wrap up the key takeaways for you, the listener.
Okay, let's recap. The core allegations about Lee Jae-myung and the Seongnam International Mafia really center on a few key things. First, there are those documented times he acted as a lawyer for multiple people identified in court records, by media as members or even leaders of this alleged criminal group.
And that includes family, but also others involved in serious crimes.
All right, not just the nephew from middle school, but other relatives and these alleged key figures too. Second, there's that whole co-mate trade connection.
Yeah.
The CEO had alleged mafia ties, was even indicted in that big 2007 mafia case where Lee was also involved legally, defending others, yet co-mate got city recognition and gave donations during Lee's time as mayor.
That overlap is hard to ignore.
It is. And finally, while there were allegations about direct financial and political support, the evidence presented in the sources we looked at for those specific claims seems, well, less conclusive.
Right. So, considering all these detailed accounts we discussed, the legal records, the sequence of events reported, what does this pattern of interactions and representations suggest to you about the real nature of the relationship, if any, between Lee Jae-myung and the Seongnam International Mafia? What might be the wider implications for understanding his political career, his public image, even now?
Yeah, that's really the lingering question.
It's definitely something for you to think about further, to reflect on, using all the information we've unpacked together today.